Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, relations between Muslim and Christian communities in Bangui take another turn for the worse as a Muslim former minister is reportedly killed by Christian vigilantes. Also, Madagascar's president hands over a huge golden key to his elected successor as he symbolically relinquishes his role as leader of the crisis-hit island. And across the continent, albinos face discrimination, prejudice, and even violence because of the colour of their skin. We meet one South African woman who's taking her good looks public, hoping to help others be proud to be pale. First up, top religious leaders in Central African Republic have slammed international peacekeeping forces for not doing enough to protect Muslims. Already tense relations with Christian communities have taken another hit today after a Muslim former health minister was reportedly hacked to death by Christian militia. Dr. Joseph Kalite was assassinated in Bangui on Friday. Their fears had entered religious fighting, sparked by a Muslim Seleka rebel takeover last year, could escalate into genocide. Ben Barney sent us this report.
This is PK5, a Muslim neighborhood in Bangui, the capital city of the Central African Republic. The country's new president, Catherine Samba-Panza, has pledged to do everything she can to pacify the country. She'll need the help of the African and French peacekeeping forces. But here in the PK5 neighborhood, many people resent the presence of the French Senghars task force.
People tell us that the Sangharis forces came here to help us, but nothing is happening. We are still suffering. I think we should split the Central African Republic. We should have our own part. We should only live with our Muslim brothers. Because now we are suffering too much, no one supports us.
A few displaced families live in front of the mosque. This woman says she was attacked by the Christian militia Anti-Balaka.
My only option is to leave the Central African Republic and flee to Chad. I don't have any other option.
President Samba-Panza made a plea to the thousands of displaced families to come home. Few Muslims have heeded her plea, and those still in Bangui feel trapped and vulnerable.
I'm shocked by the discrimination against Muslims in this country. Christians can come here at PK5 without problem. But as soon as a Muslim leaves PK5 and finds himself in another Bangui neighborhood, he's in trouble. That's unacceptable.
While the new president is calling for national reconciliation, the Muslims who met in Bangui are worried and bitter. They are convinced that the French military is not on their side.
A South Sudanese rebel general accuses government troops of being in violation of a ceasefire deal signed in Ethiopia yesterday. The truce kicked in this evening, but Brigadier General Lul Ruai Koang claims the armies continued to attack rebel positions in Unity and Jonglei State. The military said it's unaware of any new clashes and any ongoing fighting began before the truce was signed. Thousands have been killed in weeks of fighting that's taken on an ethnic dimension. Talks between the two sides are due to start again on February 7th. Madagascar's president handed over a huge golden key to his elected successor as he symbolically relinquished his role as leader of the crisis-hit island. Ange Radziwiłł stood down in favour of President-elect Air Radziwiłł on Friday, a ceremony in the capital Antananarivo. Radziwiłł took power in a coup in 2009. Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in the world. There are cautious hopes that now a return to democracy could end the nation's costly political and economic crisis. Radziwiłł's inauguration is tomorrow. Gal Borges has been following the story for us.
Malagasy transition regime is officially over from today. Madagascar has a new head of state, Air Radziwiłł. His predecessor, Ange Radziwiłł, handed over power to him during an official ceremony in front of thousands of people and many members of the international community. France sent its Minister of Francophonie of French-speaking countries, Yamina Benguigui. She just arrived in Madagascar and she publicly said that Ange Radziwiłł has a role to play in the future government because his party got 53 seats in the future parliament. But later in the day, she said she was misunderstood. Here is what she said earlier.
It's clear that France does not support one candidate. France is on the side of Madagascar, on the side of the president-elect. Once again, I am sorry if I have been misunderstood. Here is the position of France.
Voilà la position de la France.
Yamina Benguigui will be attending the swearing-in ceremony tomorrow. The defeated candidate, Robinson Jean-Louis, will be attending this ceremony as well. A few hours ago, he eventually accepted his defeat, and he now recognizes Eradan Armampian as the new president of Madagascar.
A flood of refugees have fled northeastern Nigeria the past few days as Boko Haram extremists ramp up attacks. At least 18 people are thought to have been killed by the Islamist sect around Maiduguri this week. The UN's refugee agency says that more than 5,500 people have sought refuge in Cameroon and Niger since mid-January. Meanwhile, the main opposition party in the country on Friday said that its lawmakers will block the passage of new legislation, including this year's budget. The APC accuses police in Rivers State of harassing its supporters. 4 South African police officers have been arrested over the fatal shooting Thursday of a protester at a rally over housing in Johannesburg. The government's defended its police force against accusations that it uses excessive force. In 2012, several dozen miners were killed by officers during labour unrest. Well, authorities say police will be keeping a close eye on platinum mine wage strikes that began Thursday. It began peacefully, but there have been reports of scuffles and confrontations around some of the strike sites. The French military says that 11 extremist fighters have been killed during a military operation in Mali near Timbuktu. France is still trying to flush out Islamist militants from their desert hideouts a year after launching an operation to turn around a jihadist invasion of northern Mali. Our correspondents sent us this report from the city of Gao.
A daily patrol in Gao's market. It's crowded again, 1 year after French and Malian troops chased jihadists away. According to the UN, some 8,000 residents have returned. They had fled after Tuareg rebels and Islamists seized the town in 2012. Now residents feel safe and the market is busy. So many regret that half the French soldiers here are in the process of leaving.
We don't understand why they're going to leave, because when they're here, we can do what we like.
Locals fear the jihadists are not far from Gao, northern Mali's biggest town. We head to Lobu, 15 kilometers away by the Niger River. In these villages, the Mujahou recruited many men when they occupied the region, leaving the women and children behind.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind, about life in Lobu and in the surrounding area.
Despite the military presence, there have been sporadic attacks in recent months.
Recent events have shown that there is still a threat in Gao. They can fire rockets.
United Nations peacekeepers have arrived. They exchange information with their French colleagues before taking over from them in a few weeks' time.
Animal rights group PETA has applied to South Africa's government to adopt the rabbit artists secretly placed inside the right ear of a statue of the late President Nelson Mandela. Authorities were left fuming after discovering sculptors included the animal and ordered its removal. Creators have apologised and say they added the bunny as their signature. Many albinos across Africa face discrimination. Well, we meet now one South African model who hopes her looks can help break through prejudice.
It's a fashion photo shoot with a difference. Tando Hopa is a 24-year-old South African lawyer with albinism. By taking up modeling, she wants to help change people's perceptions and end prejudice against albinos.
It's a great opportunity, and I'd say if you're the first person with albinism to act, go and do it. If ever that's what the media likes, it's fine, because after some time they'll get used to it. That's the reason why we do this.
Tando is not the first albino model in South Africa. That role was filled by Refilwe Modizel, who started her career in 2005. Tando began to model last year with Fashion Week. She wanted to help widen people's notions of what is beautiful, to show that albinos are people just like any others.
Because with Xhosa words, like they call you Inkau, which means a monkey. And in Zulu, they call you Isishawa, which is a curse. And with this platform, I feel like this is a time when I can actually, how do you say to people, no, treat me differently.
Tando hopes to make a difference. People with albinism suffer from discrimination and prejudice in Africa. The young woman hopes her efforts will give South Africa's 4,000 albinos greater self-confidence.
That wraps up African News for me, but I will be back with more on Monday. Stay with the show, short break, and we'll have more news and headline from around the world. Take care.